Mike, I'll call it. Yeah, it is true. It's hard to live in today when I'm dragging around 1987 with me. I remember 2001 too. And it's a good thing that the statute of limitations has run out on them damn checks. You ain't gonna be doing no time for that. And it's important in this program to be properly armed with the facts too, because somebody could try to sell me a bag of goods. I may even believe it if I wasn't aware. I remember 2001 because I remember them planes hitting them buildings. And what I remember about 2001 was I never want to feel that way again, the way I felt that morning. And I've been thinking about it since it's been mentioned. And to not feel that way again, I'm willing to give up certain things that I thought were my rights, but I realized it was my privilege. Like Dr. Bob talks about in his story, that he realized that drinking was a privilege, not a right, and he abused his privilege, and now he doesn't get to drink anymore. That's right out of his story, and I have found that I have come to embrace that concept, that there were certain things that I believed were my rights when they were actually a privilege. And I've come to appreciate some of those things that I took for granted. What I've learned from the steps is my rights end where yours begin. See, the disease doesn't want me to have any constraints on what I think my rights are. It wants me to think things that are just privileges are rights, and then it wants me to think that I can get in on your space too. And then I get up in arms when you retaliate for me stepping on your toes, but I can't see how I started it. We're on 62 now, and what I have found is that sometimes in this program, it's not till I go through things that I realize that something's changed. The topic was the 12th step, and I like the 12 and 12's definition of it. I'm able to do, feel, and believe that which I could not do on my own strength unaided. But I got to go through these things, and then on the other side look back and say, come to think of it, I hadn't had the obsession to drink in so and so time. Come to think of it, I just accomplished a task or got through something without drinking when I would have swore to you there was no way that I was going to get through it without drinking. Moreover, I would have drank for half the shit I just got through. So sometimes I need to have somebody remind me, look how far you've come. Because I've got a disease that wants to tell me, you're a piece of shit, you can't do shit, you're supposed to want to drink, you can't think, and your mind is this terrible place to go. And if I keep telling myself that negative stuff, I'll start believing. I'll start believing what's the use. And I have found that what once was a flimsy reed or a belief turns to faith through the action I take. In the beginning it says belief is a cornerstone. I had to believe somebody else believes. It's just a matter of willing to believe. That's all it took to, begin this thing. But I'm here to report that at some point that belief turns into something. Even in our book, around the, I think it's the 5th step, it's on 75. I've done the 5th step. It says you may have had many spiritual beliefs, but now you begin to have a spiritual experience. And what has changed? What's the difference? Not me just thinking about the steps, 1, 2, and 3, the theory part. I've actually done some tangible evidence, 4 and 5, at that point. So, God works in my life through the actions I allow Him to lead me to take. If I'm starving, I can't lock myself in a closet and expect God to shove an Oscar Mayer through the keyhole. But by this time, I've learned, there's things that I can do. And, when we say grace period, what I mean by it is that there's a certain time when this is so new, and you got these new friends, and you're going out to eat at Al's. Hell, you don't even have to work the steps to stay sober. This is cool. I mean, you got less cops hollering at you. But at some point, I need to work the steps because the grace period ends. Because if it was only by God's grace and it didn't take us to do anything, we'd be meeting in Legion Field right now. But see, this is for the folks that really want to really embrace the concept that I play a part in my recovery, that faith without works is dead, that I can't just pray this away like I thought I could, but I never kept those promises anyway. Those Frock's old prayers, God, get me out of this one, I'll be better. He'd get me out of it, and I'd give Him the big finger. This way of life It's got its ups and downs. That's all I can say. But you know, we talked about, and I like this concept too. You know, it's like Olympic athletes, they'll train for a year just to shave off a fraction of a second. You know, pool players will practice for a year just to be able to make that one shot in that clutch moment. This way of life and the training that it puts me through, like not unlike the training I just referred to with those athletes, it helps me to increase the percentages that things will work out. You know, if I do these things, the percentage has been increased that positive outcomes will result. If positive outcomes did not result from this program, nobody would continue to do the shit. If you kept getting arrested, if people kept saying don't come back, if all this negative shit kept coming, but it doesn't, does it? Better results happen, and I've become to rely on it. And our book talks about it. We come to rely on it. We come to rely not only just that, but we come to rely on our mental faculties with assurance because God gave us brains to use. So all of a sudden, this person that I would have told you myself that I can't make a decision and that the first thing I think is always wrong, as the steps go on, I've become to rely on my ability to think and make better decisions. That's why I like what Tim was saying. The belief has turned to faith, and I have faith that if I keep doing these things, my life will turn out better and the results will be better. So, you know, I guess we could argue as a chicken and the egg, you know, whether we really have control over the outcomes. But I'm here to report that as more I do this stuff, I've become to rely that the outcomes are better. I mean, if you don't believe that, I don't think you've worked the steps yet. And I know what we mean when we say grace period. I know what we mean when we say we don't do the outcomes. But there's a gray area in there where I play a part. And God appreciates me doing my part. And I think He blesses that. He's not going to bless my same old foxhole bullshit. You do it all, big G. Which is what I've observed most alcoholics won't. Because you ask them to do any kind of work, they'll say, oh, well, hold on a minute. Let's don't get too serious. Or because I can prove it to you. Ask a sponsee to read the first 164 pages. You'll be fired almost on the spot. Let me go find me a co-signing bullshit sponsor that ain't going to make me do all that. Never mind I'd swim the river of shit of denial to get my drug of choice, but they asked me to spend 20 or 30 minutes doing some step work. Oh, hold on a minute now, baby. You know, I'm embarrassed at some of the shit I used to think when I was a newcomer. And that's why I have a little less sympathy for the ones that aren't willing to do anything. But the ones that are, I appreciate it. And I laud them for it. And I extol their efforts. Like, this is some serious effort. I don't know that I put this much into this. It's hardcore. I appreciate it. And I respect it. And I respect the people that I work with that continue to do this effort. Because that's the thing that pays off. Nothing in life that ever came without me doing any effort that I gave a shit about. That bike as a kid, I left that fucker out in this rain that my parents gave me. But the first time I bought me a bike, I took it in the garage and I kept it shined up. And that chrome was shining, baby. Recovery's just like that. Put the effort. Take care of it. Embrace it. I'll pass.
Let's see what you all